All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wednesday Wellness. I'm Ilene Whipple, and I'm your hostess tonight, and I am thrilled to be able to be here once again and share information that will help you be well, get well, and stay well. Those of you who know my journey know that I had actually given up that health was even a possibility for me in this lifetime, and I'm grateful for everything I did, because when I got all the tools into place, I had an exponential value and I was able to go off like a rocket ship, and my health was starting to kick in. So tonight we're going to talk about something that I learned along my journey. And what I learned along my journey was that there were emotions that were trapped in my body that were affecting my health. And it's kind of like the chicken and the egg of what comes first. Is it the trauma? Is it the emotion? And you really don't know which one came first, but they both affect each other. So you have spiritual, physical, and emotional. So we're going to talk a lot about emotional tonight. So the topic tonight is trauma and the body. And what trauma is, it's an overwhelming event beyond your control, and it results in a lasting negative effect. And we're going to tap on a few things. Programming is at the top of the list. Why we believe what we believe. So we're going to go back, and I know that I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago about Dr. Bruce Lipton. And he says this: 95% of our actions come from the subconscious. 5% is from the conscious. Subconscious is the programming that we get through culture and family. And the first 6 years of your programming, you're in a hypnotic state. And I'm going to show you that in just a moment. And we just download all these belief systems and all of these things with no filter. And a good example of this for me is that if you grew up in a family that went to church every Sunday and you prayed over your meals, you just think everybody in the world does that, right? Because you're born to age 6. And you don't have a lot of associations with other people. So you just think that is normal life. Dr. Brimhall likes to share that he grew up on supplements and everyone took vitamins every morning. He didn't know people didn't know about supplements. He didn't know that people did not know about health. That blew his mind as he grew older. And so we have all of these belief systems, and some are good and some are default, not good, that damage us. And so let's go on and look at the brain waves. When we talked about this before, when the baby from conception to age 2, their brain waves are very elongated. This is called the hypnotic state. This is the delta state. This state of being is complete download into the body, into the brain. Everything that the parents say to you, whether it's, oh my gosh, would you just go away? You're so annoying. You're not really hurt. It's not that cold. Whatever they're telling you, it's direct download. The theta stage is pretty much direct download also. And this is ages 2 to 6. It isn't until we reach 7 to 12 years old that we start having thoughts and we start analyzing things and we start questioning things. And all of us know who have been parents, when those kids hit teenagers, they are totally questioning things. They're off the chart of doubting you and trusting you. And because they realize there's differences in the world, they go over to their friends' houses and they see that they don't pray over their meals, or that is a family culture versus a universal truth. And so that's one thing that I wanted to talk about tonight, is that 95% is subconscious. What is that like? We get beliefs throughout our life. We make a file of them and we just dump them into the brain. And what happens is this is all the subconscious. Then we really react. We don't really think consciously. What does that look like when you have an event sequence? You have an event, good or bad. You have an emotion, happiness, sadness, you're angry, whatever that emotion is. So you have your personal emotion, and then you have the emotion and reaction from those people around you. So for an example, let's pretend there's a bridge and it's over a highway with a bunch of cars, and you're there with adults and you're only a 6-7-year-old child. You look at what's going on below, and there's a car accident, and you see cars being piled up and crashing into each other. And as a vigorous 6-7-year-old, you're like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. What's going on? That is so cool. And then the parents who have more attached empathy towards what's going on, they discipline you like, oh my gosh, how could you do that? What are you thinking? People are getting hurt right now. You had no frame of reference for that, but now you have that embedded in you. So that's the emotion. Now, when you have a trauma or an event or a good thing, you have muscle memory. For those of you not familiar with muscle memory, think of walking up steps and then the last step is at a different height. You kind of trip and fall. You're expecting that step to be the same height. That's a pretty simplistic example of muscle memory. But what happens is when you're in a traumatic event, for example, a car crash, when you are reacting to that with your emotion and your body is flying around the car and you've been scrunched, and that fear or that anxiety is locked into your body at that position. And this is very important. It's locked in at that position. It's locked into what was playing on the radio or any smells that were going on in the car with that fear response. And this is very important when we talk about PTSD. That muscle memory and emotion turn into a feeling. You start to now make yourself beliefs, just like we were doing on the former slide, showing that we now have beliefs that we're filing into our filing cabinet. These beliefs, notice that the middle of belief says lie. Unfortunately, I'm going to say 95% of our belief systems are lies. They are lies that we tell ourselves that help us to get through life. So with this new feeling, if it was a negative experience, we now have distrust, fear, and anxiety. We now make a decision. We make a decision to bury it, deny it, or move on. Now, if you do any of these without facing the situation and how traumatic it was for you, you are creating a new situation in your body. And we're going to talk about that. And it can happen only one time, or it could be an event that's repeated over and over again. Then you find yourself being a puppet, this is your subconscious, right? You find yourself behaving in a way that becomes natural to you. And you did this to survive. You are trapped and you are like a puppet to your subconscious. Then you can have triggers. And I think we've all experienced this. We've walked into the house, if any of us had grandmas who baked fresh bread, and we walk in the house and we smell that bread, and for me, it's a happy experience, right? But if you tap that into the negative of that body position that you were in when you were in that car accident, let's say you get back in that body position and all of a sudden you have tears. Have any of you ever had body work done of massage or even done exercise of yoga and things like that? And all of a sudden tears flow from you and you're kind of confused of why this is happening. And that's that muscle memory that has been triggered. So triggers can be smells, sounds, sight, and colors and things like that. So I'm going to stop share for just a minute. I want to jump over. So here we are on Pubmed.gov. And like I said, next week, we're going to be talking about Pubmed.gov. If I type in right here, we're going to start on this slide. Developmental of early life stress. This is a trauma with neurobiological aspects of stress beyond. So I'm going to tap into this, but what I want you to know is stress is huge in oxidative stress and inflammation, which we talked about last week. And look at this. It's a chronic PTSD. If you go down here, you're going to see things like behaviors and rebalances of the neuroinflammatory response. And it just goes on and on. Severe life stress and oxidative stress, the brain, What are you going to do about it? And that's what I want to talk about, is what are we going to do about it? This is that study that I just showed you, that early life stressors, and I just highlighted bits and pieces of it. So you have a risk for disease, adverse effects. Check this out. The nervous system, the immune system, inflammation, oxidative stress, cardiovascular, the genetics, the circadian system. That is your sleep cycle, you guys. The microbiome, which is your gut, functional brain, all of that is related. And I want to show you some of my favorite solutions. After I show you this, I forgot about this. So this, for those of you who don't know Dr. Amen, he is a psychiatrist who started using what we call a Spec Scan. The Spec Scan is used for your heart, for your liver. They do it to do your organs in a lot of doctors' offices. However, nobody ever did it on the brain. And he said, I'm going to use the Spec Scan on the brain. He has been able to, over this many years of tens of thousands of Spec Scans, determine a healthy brain versus a non-healthy brain based on brain activity, brain shape, and what's going on. I want you to focus in on this one. The colors are just representative so we could diagnose from here. This is a healthy brain. If you notice, this is the underside. As you go down the list of classic PTSD and then classic traumatic brain injury and then PTSD plus a brain injury, you see these holes? Now, it isn't that your brain actually has holes. This is actually lack of blood flow. So when you have lack of blood flow, you won't be able to think as well. You're going to be more heightened aware. You're going to have more emotions. You may react angry. All these things, you may shut down. I mean, it could go either way. This one is showing you a healthy brain activity. So this is the back side of your brain, and the blue is medium activity. The red is higher activity, and the white is highest activity. So the back of your brain is your thinking and processing center and your balance. When this is the healthy brain. Check out PTSD. You've got some hyper activity going on and a lot of red. A traumatic brain injury, this brain is almost asleep. Look how little bit of brain activity there is, and there's heightened awareness here in the middle. And then if you combine them both, you've just got that much more of a mess. Over here, I brought this one on because this is anxiety and depression. And you can see how hyperactive the brain is in all the quadrants, where we really want it to be a healthy brain in this quadrant. And I bring that up because it does make a physical difference when you are under stress for an extended period of time. Now, I want to go into a couple of solutions. I highlighted, I have a lot. You need to find what works for you. There is not a one cure fix all on this one, but there are things that you can do that are universal that will help. I highlighted my favorite. I've done all of these, by the way. And so I highlighted my favorite based on efficacy and price tag. Okay. And sometimes the price tag isn't important if you've got the money to be able to pay to get the help. But if you are anyway, if you just want the best bang for your buck, this is what I like. So number one, we're going to look at nutrition. We're going to look at your gut, a pre, a pro, and a postbiotic, brain and body via the NERV1, NERV2, and the NAD. The work of Byron Katie. I'll go into that in just a minute. There are neuro tools, write and burn. This is one of my favorite techniques. It's cost-free almost, and you do it with a pencil and paper. I'll talk about that in a minute. Breath work, RET, kinesiology. I'll tap a little bit on that, and then the books. And I'm going to show you my books because this is what I think is so important that we realize. So back here, I've got my books. There are these authors and therapists who have written these books. So this one is by Louise Hay. It's called Heal Your Body. And when I was saying that constant stress onto your body can create disease, what she's done is she's worked with enough people that she's gone in and she can diagnose a possibility of what's going on in your body. So for example, I just opened it up randomly and it says ears. Your probable cause is that you don't want to hear what's going on. Now, there could be a physical reason, but if that's the emotional reason that you've got, and then your way out would be, I hear with love. If I turn the page and I just look at something different, I'm just going randomly here. Myopia, which is eye problems. Fear of the future, not trusting what is ahead. And if those are your emotional challenges that are bringing on the physical, then I trust the process of life and I am safe. And there's processes for you to do that. So I wanted to show you a couple more. This is the body is the barometer of the soul. This is one of my favorites too. She goes through actually bones. If you break a specific bone, it might be representative of what's going on in your life. If I'm going to do randomly here on this one too. This one is Candida. Candida is an overgrowth of yeast. It starts with you doubting yourself. And this is a moldy old concept you are not doing. Okay, so it's really amazing when you look at some of these. Let's look at something that would be more epilepsy, not accepting the way you do things. And I look at autoimmune, and I don't know, I'm not going to look it up and spend our time there, but autoimmune, if you look at what autoimmune is, it's the immune system attacking itself. So emotionally, where have I done that? Because that's what my diagnosis is. It's an autoimmune diagnosis. Where have I attacked myself? Well, I've told myself I'm no good. I've told myself I can't succeed. I tell myself this, I tell myself that. It's my fault. I took blame on for other people and their actions. I was self-deprecating. And of course, eventually the body's going to give. So this is the work of Byron Katie. She has a website. She has videos that you can watch. This woman changed my emotional life. I am telling you that her technique is so simple. You don't have to pay anybody. You can have a child help you walk through this. And I'm not going to expound on that more tonight, but I want you to know about it. And then this is the other book that absolutely changed my life, Buried Feelings Alive, Never Die. And Carol Truman, what she found with her therapy that she was working with people is the same thing that Louise Hay did. So for example, if you get the flu, I just opened it up randomly. It says fear, belief the worst is happening to you, belief in the mass negativity. And so do any of those ring true for you? They may not, but they might. And if they do, it might be something, it's a belief that you're lying to yourself that may not be true. So I want to tell you a couple of quick examples. Oh my gosh, I can't believe how fast the time flies. Let's say that there's a snake on the ground and you're scared of snakes. And so you're screaming and you're jumping back and you're going and you just don't know what to do. And you poke a stick at it. And when you poke the stick at it, you realize it's a rope. Now, if someone else sees that rope, they might think it's a snake, but you know it's a rope and it will never fool you again. And that is what the work of Byron Katie does for you. She takes your thoughts that you believe. She turns those scary negative thoughts into ropes. And it doesn't dismiss what happened to you. It doesn't dismiss the abuse or anything, the trauma that you have happened. But what it means is that you are now able to move through it because you've released the emotion and the belief behind it. And that is the message I really want to share with you tonight, is that you can move through these, find the technique that works best for you. I'm going to go back and share my screen for just another moment here. So those are the therapies that I'm familiar with. I'm sure there's a ton more out there. Find what works for you. I want you to remember two things. Your event and how you process it is never bigger or less than anyone else. And I will tell you, an event came up for me the other day, and I was told by a family member, well, that's no big deal because, you know, your life could be much worse than what it is. And yes, it could have. I understand that. But that event for me was very traumatic, and it was 100% for me. What is someone else's is 100% for them. We can have empathy for other people and ourselves. It doesn't dismiss that you did not experience something that upset your body, okay, or your spirit and mind. Please find what works for you. And remember, the body and mind were made to heal and repair. So if what works for you is turning upside down, and that's just a symbol, that find what works for you. And I wish everybody to be well, get well, and stay well. And so we're here every single Wednesday. I invite you back next week. We're going to have Joan on, and she's going to talk about Pubmed.gov and teach us how to function with that and how to utilize this great resource of validated peer-reviewed studies, which that will all be explained next week. So I thank you guys for coming, and we're going to stay and talk afterwards. So please join us live every week, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thanks, guys, and good night. Thanks for watching. And remember, one change can have an enormous effect. Remember to subscribe, hit the bell and the like, and we'll see you next time on Love to Live.